Hello and welcome to Celtic World, a YouTube channel and podcast made by Celtic fans all over the world for Celtic fans all over this great big world. Hello to everyone who's in the chat. How you all doing? Let us know if anyone's microphone is causing you particular grief. We've had one or two little issues before going live, but hopefully we all sound roughly the same and there's not too much interference. Let me say hello to our two esteemed guests, Paul from Perth. Thursday night regular. What about you?
Yeah, not bad. Maybe just rough rather than roughly. But yeah, happy to be here. We know what well since I've been on a Thursday. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah. You're going to have to speak closer to your mic if you can, Paul, or project a little bit more, I think, if people back home are going to pick you up. David from Bangkok, you coming in loud and clear?
Hopefully. Hail, Gav, Paul. Good to see the lads in the chat. I see big hello to Monty. I hear that you hadn't been feeling so good. Hope you're well, mate. And, all thinking about you. Look after yourself. So yeah, hail from, I think it's a bit too sunny Bangkok. I had to move my chair to get a different view. So you can hear me loud enough, but probably the light was a wee bit bright earlier on. So
yeah.
Hail,
Well,
folks.
it's good to see you both. As you know, in all the best relationships, there are ups and downs. And Monty and I have had our ups and downs, but we definitely wish him all the very best. Great to see you back in the chat. And hello to everyone else who's coming in. There's people saying hello to each other in the chat, which is always nice. Hail, troopers. Hail. Morning, folks. Well, it's morning in Bonnie, Scotland. It's evening in Australia, Malaysia, and Thailand. But that's the beauty of a Celtic world, where doesn't matter about time zones. We're always on, it seems. Anyway, what are we here to talk about, lads? Well, let's have a look at this to get us started. Quo vadis, Celtic. So we'll be testing your biblical recall shortly and your Latin skills. David's licking his lips at the prospect of that, I imagine. Brian Wilson there in the middle, looking like the eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg, obdurate, gazing down on the fans with disgust, as per the meeting of late. Martin O'Neill looking on worriedly as Michael Nicholson sort of exits stage right, wasn't even present for the meeting. So obviously that's what we're going to be talking about, but Quo Vadis Celtic, David?
Yep, so having passed my higher Latin, I can comfortably say what Quo Vadis means. It's also quite a well-known pub on the Great Western Road on the way to Cardonald and Paisley that probably some of the people in the chat group are perhaps more familiar with. But essentially, where are you going? And it's very much linked to the where are you going in terms of what's your ambition, where's your ambition, and that's basically it. But I think Quo Vadis. I don't think it's a particular. Yeah, thanks, Craig. Yeah, I think Quo Vadis. I don't think it's a particular affiliation one way or the other. I think I know some of my friends have been there a few times.
Oh, the pub, you mean? Well,
yeah.
Of course, it's also from the Bible. And Paul, I know your mum watches the show sometimes, so you'll be keen to impress her with your knowledge of where it comes up in the Bible.
Yeah, absolutely. My wayward catechism days. I didn't actually know this. I googled it 10 minutes ago. Apocryphal Acts of Peter, I think. Is that right? Questions asked by St. Peter. Questions asked by St. Peter after he meets Christ. After his crucifixion and resurrection. There you go.
Yes. And what does he say to him?
Presumably he says, where are you going?
He says, Quo Vadis Domine.
I don't know. Gav, I am a born-again atheist. This is
come on, you can't say that. We'll lose half our listenership.
Sorry,
All right.
sorry. My
my
actual days are longer.
Yes, where are we? Where are Celtic going? That is the big question. And really, like I say, the interim chairman just met with a bunch of fans there, and it's fair to say that didn't go brilliantly. Now, I don't know if you've all had a chance to look at the minutes. I've seen other people breaking them down on different Celtic channels. So maybe by now, everybody in the chat has sort of got a handle on the basics of what that conversation was. So I don't think there's any point in us going over them slide by slide unless there's one or two you want to pull up, Paul or David or anyone in the chat. But it's fair to say that he completely fobbed off the fans with sort of vague promises, words of appeasement, no solid commitments to change, and no timeline to meet, except, we can meet again in a month to discuss things. How predictable and depressing is all of that, David?
Yeah, I think also, correct me if I'm wrong as usual, but I don't think that Celtic have actually issued their version of the minutes. Normally, these minutes should be approved, agreed by everyone who's involved, to make sure that people can't say that it was Celtic supporters, the collective, being biased. So I think it's quite disappointing, but not surprising that that Celtic management have failed to basically show some basic decency in replying to confirm whether they agree or not to these minutes. I mean, there's lots of nonsense in there. The one that kind of pissed me off more than anything was that when Wilson talks about how yes, we can agree that there perhaps been some mistakes, but overall Nicholson, were satisfied with his performance, and I don't know how you could possibly say that you would be satisfied with what he's achieved. It's been dire, desperate stuff.
Yeah, and the minutes also pointed out the contradictions in some of what was said. Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with our systems. Our systems have been in place for years and they work perfectly well. And then people are saying, well, explain, the balls up, explain Nancy, explain the window. If the systems are fine, it's the people involved in the systems who must be at fault. Ergo, Nicholson's not doing a very good job. Don't you agree? Which, of course, he wouldn't accept. Paul, if you were in the meeting, would you have come away? What would you have come away thinking the board's attitude is towards the fans' discontent?
Same as it's always been. They don't give a shit, do they? It's mealy mouthed. It's platitudes. It's empty. It's the same as the Celtic board communicates with the fans with a level of disdain that's hard to match, and in a way that is as they do it as little as they absolutely have to. They even manage to make their one annual meeting that has to go ahead. They manage to find a way to wriggle out of keeping that on the full time that was required by blaming the fans for disruption. It was the bare minimum that we should have expected given performance over the last 12 months and a lot longer. There's a school of thought, a growing school of thought, I think, inside and outside the collective. I would say that it's almost past being worthwhile in any way, shape, or form continuing to meet with this board because they've proved they're going to do nothing. So you meet with the other side if you think resolution can be found, some common ground can be found, some negotiations, some compromise, a pathway agreed to move forward. The board have showed absolutely no interest in that. I feel like they just want to deflect, appease, pretend to appease, and delay. And the problem we've got with all of this is not just this season, but we currently need a new chairman, a new manager, a new head of recruitment, director of football if we're ever going to put one in, and the best part of probably the guts of probably as much as 2/3 of a squad. And if we don't start doing that to the summer, we've got absolutely, never mind what's going to happen this season. This next season will be an absolute shambles as well. So it's, the longer this goes, the worse it gets. And there's two ways this goes. Either we somehow stumble along and stay in competitions and make something of an absolutely dreadful season and are still not ready for next year, or it blows up in our face very soon, maybe as soon as Sunday. And if you think it's been toxic up until this point, it'll go nuclear. When there's no league to play for, never mind a Scottish Cup, who cares? The Scottish Cup should never be something that we take as a consolation. Not since the days that we've been hitting as hard as we have, making as much money as we have, as far ahead of the rest as we are financially. The Scottish Cup is it's a sort of icing on the cake to either a double or ideally a treble. But if the league blows up in the next few weeks, or even as soon as next week, like I say, then you won't need boycotts. The stadium will be down to about 20,000. People will be, the Sharks will be out in the car park again. It's going to go mad. And bear in mind, and when we all know this, but it's worth mentioning one more time. We're sitting on the guts of 70 to 80 million quid, and we're falling apart at the seams. Stadium's falling down. The squad's atrocious. We don't have a manager. And the board are utterly dysfunctional. So you can barely believe we've shot ourselves in the foot to this extent.
I just want to pull up the next few fixtures just to see how soon it could be before things could potentially have just all fallen down around us. You know, we were surviving by the skin of our teeth recently, you know, getting late goals and the like, which, you know, was always likely to run out. Then the Stuttgart game came along and absolutely outclassed in Europe. And then we lost to Hibs. Now we've got Stuttgart again tonight, which is almost certainly going to be another humiliation. And then we've got 2 Rangers games coming up, one in the league, one in the cup, Aberdeen in between. Like, David, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that we could have a bunch more red in there and the season could be completely screwed prior to March the 8th. Everything could be finished. I've seen Rangers podcasts. I've seen the thumbnail saying we can end Celtic season, and we should in these next couple of fixtures. And that is very much, there's a non-zero chance of that.
I mean, also just to add to the list, after we play Aberdeen or after the Huns game in the cup, I think our next game is at home to Motherwell.
It is.
You know, the form team in the league. So it's difficult to see where we could get the confidence from. I mean, I think that Rangers are no great shakes, but I mean, if you look at, I mean, I saw the highlights of the Livingston game, and to be fair, the Livingston goalkeeper had the game of his life. And I know that, you know, we created a few chances against Livingston when we played them, but I'm just not seeing creativity from us just now. I think the midfield is, you know, weak as piss, to use a trusteeism, and I really have concerns about how things will work in the midfield on Sunday. I don't care about tonight. I mean, Martinoneill made it clear in his pre-match conference that you know, he's resting as many players as he can. Araujo is he's not travelling. I think he's the only key player who's not travelling to Germany today or yesterday, whenever they travelled. But yeah, I mean, tonight, let's try and avoid an absolute battering, avoid injuries, and, you know, fingers crossed for Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, it's very dark. In fact, because we've no game to review tonight, we don't have any stills to go through. And there's not a lot of news to talk about, so I think we're just going to be doing an awful amount of gurning on tonight's show. But let's try and temper that with, well, what Colin points out here. It's a dogfight. Are we any more than a subservient little poodle in the dogfight, Paul?
So this is the counterpoint. I think the best team of the top four is Motherwell. I actually think they're the best team. I think they might have left themselves a little bit too much to do, but possibly not. I think somebody said they were at 33-1 the other day, and if I was a betting man, and I'm not, that would be worth a few bucks or a few quid of anyone's money. Because the top three all look rotten. Rangers are absolutely rubbish. We are arguably worse, but on our day potentially better. And Hearts have been solid, but they've got injuries now. Another 3 injuries piling up on top of the ones they've already got. Ayew is out for the season. The Brazilian midfielder they signed, and a couple of others have got injuries that will need scans and are probably going to be out for a few weeks at least. So add that on top of Devlin and Shanklin. They've started, and this was always likely to happen, right? So they've already started dropping points. So the only thing you could point to in our favour is we've been over this track plenty of times before, and we've got a manager who is capable of pulling performances that probably shouldn't be possible from the players he's got at his disposal. So whilst I was pretty doom and gloom about the overall state of the club, and that doesn't change, you win on Sunday and it looks completely different. This is, I think it's an absolute season-defining match. If we win that match, we can probably kick on and win the league. If we lose, then it's done. I would say it's done. There could be a few more twists and turns, and obviously the way the split lines up, we've all got to play these teams again, and more to the point, they've got to play teams like Falkirk and Motherwell, who will take points off the top 3 in the running. So, yeah, we'll see.
Robert's suggestion for everyone is that start drinking heavily. Craig has already one step ahead of him.
Always good advice.
Yeah, well, yeah, dear, oh dear. So tonight, of course, we go back to the fact that it's Stuttgart tonight. And so another humiliation is on the cards, do we suspect? I mean, you're hoping against hope that we don't get another drubbing, but we saw that Stuttgart are, at the very least, a capable European team that play like a team, and they've got a few very good players. David?
Yeah, sure.
What would be a good result tonight?
No injuries. I think that in terms of the scoreline, I think if we keep it down to 3-0, would be. I mean, it's sad, but
it's very sad.
I think that to where we go all out attack, try and keep it down to 1 or 2, and risk injuries. I guess the likes of Hatate will play, Maeda to run about. I would play the Adamu. No, I don't know if he's in the squad. But really, we need to keep the bare minimum of our key players for Sunday.
Well, I think Maeda's got to play on Sunday.
I would play him on Sunday, definitely.
So I would be playing him tonight then. So he'd be playing Sunday for me. Whether it's the disappointed skipper that plays it right back or somebody else, he terrifies players when they're in the defense, when they're on the ball defensively, because he's right on top of them. So he's got to play. I think then you've got an option in Tenecti as a rotation of the best bench, where he seems to have done his best work. I agree with Peg, like Lonergan's point. Our press is our biggest issue. We are nowhere since Engels has been out of the team. The midfield press is terrible, and there's no pressure on the opposition. They get a chance to play out and play through us. and there's just no urgency in terms of the midfield to get it back. It's not a surprise. Obviously, Chamberlain's still getting up to speed. McGregor sits far too deep to make the press of any use. Negrin's not that energetic, even though he's got to play because he's one of the only goal threats in the team. And Maeda being in and out of the team means that obviously he hasn't been around to press either. So, yeah, our press is a massive issue, and it needs to be absolutely firing come Sunday.
The Huddle Board Exchange had a really good session in their podcast yesterday. They were talking about how bad the pressing has been in the last two home games against Hibs and Falkirk have been the lowest in terms of the percentage of times that our pressing has got the ball back. When we played Hibs before Christmas, we averaged about 40% of the time we were able to get the ball back quickly. But last weekend was the lowest we've managed. I think it was about 21% or something. Really piss poor. And they also did analysis of the ease with which Hibs were able to get through our non-existent sort of passing. So, I think missing Engels is, that's important. But he was playing even when the pressing was going to shit.
Can't say that. We're going to talk about Engels in a second, Paul. I know you're itching to talk about Engels, but before we do, I just want to mark something. It was a tweet that I put out earlier today, which is basically saying, another Euro humiliation is on the cards, and it's worth reminding ourselves of the fact that our degeneration has been years in the making. It's not just a recent thing, as is quite nicely illustrated in our little Where is the Ambition video. Now, I know a lot of you have seen this before, but I'm going to play it again because it never declines in relevance, and it's going to be relevant when we're picking up the pieces of our shattered Euro hopes tomorrow morning.
Instead of this settling for mediocre, imagine what we could be.
Yes, indeed. Imagine what we could be. Years and years of decisions from Dermot Desmond have brought us to this place. And, you know, many fans have seen it coming for years and have been talking about it for years. We've only been on for 2.5 seasons, but you know, we've been talking about it since our inception. That, you know, in business and in football, you know, if you don't run to keep up, you go backwards. If you're not going forwards, you're going backwards. And we've been repeatedly held back, and the chickens are coming home to roost. At what point, David, do you think there'll be a moment of realization among the powers that be at the club that maybe there's something in that? Maybe we have made a bit balls up.
Yeah, I think, as Paul said, this weekend is absolutely massive. If we lose this weekend, in terms of the Scottish Cup game the following week, if you win the Scottish Cup, that at least gets you into the Europa League. Although I guess being second, third, or fourth in the league, if we get the conference, probably that's much more our level just now. But no, I think if we can kind of scrape a victory or even I think a draw would be at this stage would be acceptable for Sunday. But you know, tonight we write off, and then we see what happens on Sunday. But if things go belly up on Sunday, then you know I predict a riot.
Yeah, that's our first musical reference of the night. All right, so you mentioned Engels, so you know Paul is very keen to tell us in another musical reference that you don't know what you got till it's gone, or words to that effect. So, Paul, take it away.
Nothing more than I've said umpteen times before. Like, he does a lot of work that people don't particularly notice. He's got a great engine. He's a natural athlete. So his work off the ball is excellent. Most people don't look at players when they're not on the ball, except somebody like Maeda, who's an absolute dynamo.
Can you speak a bit louder, Paul? Because your volume is dropping if you don't, when you speak under your breath. Go ahead.
Right. Maybe, hopefully the viewers can still hear me. Yeah, look, all I'm saying is that Engels brings a lot to the side, both with and without the ball. And the players that have replaced him don't offer that. So his passing is probably, other than maybe Oxlade-Chamberlain, his passing is better than anyone else in the team. And we've seen some great passes from the Ox already in a cameo basis, but he hasn't got the problem is he hasn't got the fitness. He hasn't got the fitness yet. So yeah, I just think without his energy, that midfield is sadly lacking because it isn't coming from anywhere else. You could talk about overloading the midfield, but then you know, what do you do then? I think it's too radical to change the shape into something like 3-5-2. You've kind of got to play Nygren because it's goal threat, but if you do that, then you've got less impact in midfield. I was a big advocate back earlier in the season of playing Engels closer to McGregor and playing as a double pivot. I think there's an argument for doing that with Oxlade-Chamberlain in this game on Sunday, because you need to firm up the support there. And if you've got good players, and both those players are great passers, as is Engels, you've got the whole game in front of you and you can play killer passes. Whereas you get higher up the pitch, it's too broken up and you can pass through it more easily. So I'd actually pull, same as I said with Engels earlier, I pull Oxlade-Chamberlain closer to McGregor, screen that back two who are obviously going to be a mixture of either dreadful or inexperienced. And there's a discussion to be had about centre back, given Austin Truss's ridiculous decision on the weekend. But then, yeah, give more cover there, push the fullbacks up, and yeah, overload up there, and give Nygren a free roll to get as close as he can to Chavanchara, and see if he can. But the biggest problem we've had is the things that have worked for us in an attacking sense have been getting down the channels. We've talked a lot about this in the tactical review on Monday nights. Anyone that listens, we've had good success when we get down the wings and throw balls into the box. We've done it only sporadically, but when we have done it, we've created chances to score goals. The goal on the weekend is a perfect example. KT gets a brilliant cross in, Negron drifts off his man, and he's in and he scores a great goal. And if you look back at the goals over recent weeks, the Neil the players cutting in and shooting, the players getting across and swinging across in and beat defence. We just don't do it enough. I don't understand why we don't do it enough, because we get caught in this, old style back and forth, pass it back, horseshoe of death nonsense again. But I think if we drop one midfielder a bit closer, there's another argument for having, people will laugh because he's been so off it. But there's an argument for having Bernardo at the bench on Sunday as well, because he's a grafter, he's got good work rate, and we will need that. We will need that on Sunday. Like you can see, some of the midfield options are super lightweight. Like Rio Tate, he's not the answer. McCowan is well off it. So I think you're looking at McGregor, Bernardo, obviously Chamberlain for 2 of the 3 spots, and then you've got to play Negron because he gets your goal.
So you can see what people in the chat there are saying about Arnie Engels. Nobody's complaining about his price tag now because we had big offers for him, and now, he's sort of the one piece of flotsam in the ocean that we think we could possibly swim to and survive by clinging on to, David. That's a bit of a worry, isn't it? That's really the one positive for us, that the generally unconvincing Arnie Engels is coming back from injury.
Yeah, I think you're a wee bit harsh there. I mean, I think that he has added a lot to the team. I think he's also shown that by investing a decent amount of money, you're much more likely to get your money back. If you spend £5 million in Balakwisha, who's not even in the European squad, hasn't been in any squad for a month, we were possibly going to spend £5 million on Vuka and give him a 5-year contract. That you'd never get your money back for these people. Whereas at least with Engels, we were willing to splash the cash, and Nottingham Forest were going to more than double our money from that one. So I think rather than talk about specifically Engels, I think it's our recruitment strategy. But then if you look at Maeda, was expecting to leave at the end of last season. If we had a replacement in, we would have got 15 million for Maeda. If we had a replacement in for Engels, and clearly, we didn't know that he was going to be injured for the most important month of the season. We were looking at £25 million for Engels. So, it is an important loss for us at this time.
The other thing, sorry, David. The other thing I'd say about Engels and his injury is because he's been asked to play too much football, because there's nobody else to be to take a place. And that goes back to the recruitment as well. The recruitment's been absolutely shocking, as we all know. But it's worth pointing out. Part of the reason the season's gone as badly as it has is because of injuries. Why have those injuries happened? Because they haven't had proper rotation. Because they haven't got squads up deep. And it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy that you don't replace well. You ask the same players to go back to the well again and again and again, put pressure on the body, and eventually you get
I see Leanne Campbell in the chat making lots of quite detailed tactical points. I hope Leanne's a keen student of Monday nights or Monday 12 noon's tactical review, Paul. Those are the kind of things that you drill down into in a bit more depth than we do on this show. But if not, check it out, Leanne. Yeah. Now, what about should we talk about that now? Or while we're on the subject of Engels, did you see this story now about, well, this tweet sort of takes in both Nygren and Engels. Celtic are willing to consider a big offer for Sweden midfielder Benjamin Nygren in the summer amid increasing interest from Premier League clubs. This is one of these articles where there's no clubs mentioned. Could be absolutely nothing. But if that means Engels and Nygren could possibly be sold by the club to make up for the lack of future European money, certainly no Champions League, most likely. Maybe even no Europa League. Who knows? They might see that as an opportunity to raise some cash for this massive rebuild, which, if you think of the number of players in our squad who have been touted as being off this summer, I mean, there's loads of them. They say Schmeichel definitely going to be off. Sinisalo might be off because of lack of opportunities. Are we going to sign our lone left back and right back? Possibly not. Midfielders being sold left, right, and centre. These two, Hitate, Maeda. I mean, what the hell's going to happen this summer, David?
But I mean, this goes back to what I was saying about having a recruitment strategy. We should expect that, first of all, we are recruiting players of suitable quality, and then, that we make a profit on them. So, if we get 20, 25 million for Nygren, then obviously, we should be, considering that. I think in terms of the goals that he scores are obviously crucial for the club right now. But we should be looking at having a strategy in place now. The fact that we've got Martinoneill, who's only here till, well, hopefully here till the end of the season. Who's the who's the manager? Who's the person that's going to start planning for for the next transfer window, which is even more important than all the previous ones probably put together.
Well, you mentioned before we came on air, you're suggesting that you read online about Martinoneill potentially being off. If things go even worse very soon. Tell us about that, David.
Oh no, it was just something I saw in one of the chat groups I'm on. Someone had heard a rumor, but I think it was just some clickbait from a Sevco fan, hopefully, and hopefully there's absolutely no truth to it. I mean, it would be crazy that if it did happen, because that would be 5 managers this season. And I think I saw somewhere that in our first 91 years, we only had 5 managers. And then,
mostly
if
thanks
Martin
to Willie Maley, of course.
Still credit where credit's due. But I would still think that, 4 managers in a season is bad enough, but 5 would just be mental.
Well, Martin seems to have dropped the laughy, jokey, self-deprecating granddad humour, much to many people's delight. But Paul, turning to his comments about Bodo Glimt being the exception that proves the rule, what's your thoughts on that?
I would have thought Martin would be a bit smarter than that, to be honest. I thought it was a little bit...
a bit louder, Paul.
I thought it was a little bit... I think I'd expected him to be a bit smarter, and I think that it was a bit derogatory, to be honest. He went on about their artificial pitch, but so what? Do you know? I mean, they're in the Arctic Circle. They've got the same size stadium as Livingston. Their wage budget's tiny. They're not in the quarterfinals of the Champions League because they're not in the quarterfinals of the Champions League because they've got an artificial pitch. It's just nonsense. The coach has done a great job. Obviously, the recruitment team's done a great job, and it's not just Bodo Glimt. They've been successful for a number of years and have progressed in Europe over a number of years because they've got the whole structure right. Michelin's another one. Like they thumped us in the Europa this season, and they continue to go from strength to strength because they got They had a 10-year plan or a 20-year plan. I read an article, I think we spoke about this previously. They were talking about maybe putting in a 50 or 100-year plan because that would map out where they wanted to go as a club. We can barely plan what we're going to do next week, never mind a 100-year plan. Bruges, another team that's been playing Champions League football for probably 6-7 years in a row. It just again and again and again. You've got these teams with small budgets and unfancied leagues, and with lesser names. Like, these clubs don't have the history of us. They don't have the fan base of us. They don't have the merchandise opportunities that we've got. And they operate in similarly poor leagues with similar budgets, and will be similarly down the pecking order for players. But because they've got good strategies and they've got good structures and they've got good scouting, and they're forward thinking, and they buy low and sell high and continuously recycle the squad at the right time, they're punching miles above their weight. Meanwhile, we're sitting with 80 million quid in the bank, punching miles below our weight. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the board are just talking absolute horseshit when they say, oh, it's not possible because the financial landscape's moved. These clubs have proven that it's absolutely possible.
Yeah, just looking at the teams, these are the teams in the Champions League that finished in the top 24. Olympiacos, Bruges, Galatasaray, Karabag, Bodo Glimt, Benfica. Monaco is a small club and probably got money, but and then teams that finished outside it but were still in the Champions League, the likes of Pafos, PSV, Copenhagen, Slavia Prague, and of course down there at the bottom, everybody's favorite, I like Kazakhstan, Kairat. So that's just the Champions League. Then in the Europa League table, this is the top of the Europa League table, and again Midtjylland, Porto, Braga, Genk, Ferencváros, Victoria Pilsen, Crvena Zvezda, PAOK, where of course what's his name is playing his trade now. What's his name?
And Greg Taylor are both playing.
Yes.
Yeah, Greg Taylor.
So I mean, who among those teams have greater earning potential than Celtic? The ones that I listed. Any of them?
No. Porto are probably the biggest you mentioned, but
yeah. So it's not just Bodo Glimt we're pointing at. There's plenty of teams that have harnessed a progressive, forward-looking, ambitious, speculate to accumulate sort of attitude, and it's working out beautifully for them. And they're pulling in the riches from the Champions League, whereas we are hurtling towards the bottom. Are you just waving at me there, David, or has someone important walked into the office?
Yeah, one of my colleagues. Hey, Gav.
Martin Cassidy says Celtic are a sleeping giant. Still, when you consider Europe will only improve once the dictator's removed and we have a younger, fresher, ambitious board. I mean, it's hard to say that that's not entirely correct.
Yeah, but it's when. I don't think anyone disagrees, but Desmond said it gets handed over to Ross Desmond. The club share isn't getting sold in the family lifetime. So things are going to have to get a hell of a lot more uncomfortable for those top before we change this. Yeah, spot on.
Ross Desmond is next in line to the Desmond dynasty throne. Nothing is going to change on the basis he's even more tyrannical than his father. Yeah. I mean, that image of him sitting reading out his little letter to the fans, it's going to be one of the images that we look back on when the books are written about this season, about what an absolute act of self-sabotage. Not just this season, but this season is the culmination of as we say, many years of self-sabotage. That's going to be absolutely at the centre of it, if you ask me. All right, so we've already talked about tonight's game. How we have got very limited ambition to do anything other than come out of it without any injuries. Let's talk about the game against Sevco at the weekend. Are we feeling confident? Do you think this before kickoff, are we suddenly going to be, full of enthusiasm for the game? Up and at them, come on, lads, we can do it. Let's put them in their place. Or
I'll have
are
had
we going into this with trepidation?
I'll have had 6 or 7 pints by then, so absolutely, I'll be gung ho. And to be honest, in recent months or years, it's the only several months. It's been the only way to take in one of those matches and be in any way kind of confident, because you've started to numb the pain before it occurs. I'm not confident. I don't think I'm confident. Look, a lot of my confidence doesn't come from the opposition. It comes from us, and it comes from the officials. If I'm brutally honest, that official lineup, handpicked straight from the lodge. Stephen McLean on fire and beat it through the middle. Ridiculous, but it is what it is. It's always been the same. But conversely, they are not that bloody good. If we can get ourselves up for this game and get an early goal, which is proven difficult recently, then anything can happen. Anything can happen. O'Neill obviously got a result last time in this fixture, albeit it took extra time. He had a slightly stronger squad. I hope he's got a tactical change as well as a personnel change up his sleeve, because if he goes out with the same crap we've gone out with the last 2 or 3 games, there's every chance we get beat. You can't take Schmeichel out the side because there's nobody better.
He's never getting out of the side.
It
annoys me a bit, I have to say, how quickly you dismiss Sinisalo, Paul, as worse than Schmeichel.
Well, on the evidence, I use my eyes. On the evidence of that, he's worse. Like, he's rubbish with his feet. His distribution's shocking. He's worse at cross balls, and his shot stopping doesn't seem to be anything special.
Goalkeepers don't come for crosses, apparently. So you can't expect that from him. And he hasn't had much of a run in the team. The only run in the team that he's had, he didn't put a foot wrong. He's come in for the odd game here and there.
That's not
true. It's largely true.
It's not completely true, and he didn't have pretty much pressure on him when he's been in and out of the team recently. There's been pressure, and he's not stood up to it. And I don't care. Yes, I said we don't have. You shouldn't really come for crosses, but if you're gonna, you can't be flapping at him like you're waving at your mum. You've got to come and take it.
A bit.
He's flapped a fair bit. I just don't, and you can't risk him in this match. Do you know what I mean? That's ludicrous. So Schmeichel has passed it. That's not up for debate. There's a mistake in him constantly. But even on Sunday, he made a double save to keep us in the match. He got down low, tipped it away, got back up, blocked it with his reasonable bulk. But if that goes in at 2-0, the game's over at that point. And between O'Neill coming back in now, he's had some good performances. He's had some match-winning performances. So I fully agree that he's not great, but he's not getting dropped. There's not a chance he's getting dropped. I trust Ross Doohan more than I trust Sinisalo as a replacement. That's how little confidence I've got in Sinisalo in the recent performances.
Yeah, Sinisalo's odd game does not inspire confidence, says Mahesh. He's absolutely right, but it's only the odd game here and there. Schmeichel has a game where he costs us terribly, but then he's in for the next 3 and does all right, makes a few saves, and everyone sort of absolves him of his sins until the next one.
Because he's got great saves in him. Sinisalo hasn't showed that he's even got that. So this is the point. It's a low bar, but he's the best keeper at the club.
Well, that's depressing. Yeah, that's a low bar. The fact that you can even make a cogent argument to that end is depressing to me.
But it is depressing. But again, that's a massive failure of recruitment again as well. Like, everything we talk about in terms of how bad this team is, it comes down to how bad our recruitment is. and how bad the overall infrastructure of the club is.
David, you're looking forward to the big game at the weekend?
Yeah, for sure, always do. Hail, hail, Eddie from the world famous Bangkok Celtic Supporters Club, by the way. But yeah, I mean, Paul's absolutely right. The recruitment strategy has been a disaster. I saw that I think there's 5 or 6 players that we have bought this year who don't even make it into squads, or who didn't make it into squads, if you include the likes of Simpson Pusey and Inamura and Shin, Mvuka, the Balikwisha, and then maybe this guy Arthur. I think in terms of 3-5-2 is probably a bit of a risk. But do you play Dane Murray as one of your centre halves on Sunday, or do you play maybe Kieran Tierney, who's a lot smaller, but who's played centre half for Scotland? So I don't know. Do you go 3-5-2, or do you risk playing the guy Arthur? There's so many opportunities for Sunday to go belly up. But again, though, it's an opportunity. Maybe Arthur, he's had a week of training after getting his cameo role at the weekend. Maybe he'll do fine. I think it's a massive game for Oxlade-Chamberlain, but really, for me, we really need a strong midfield, and I think Bernardo is probably realistically our best option there. I would probably drop Tunekte for Maeda on the left, and I would have Nygren much closer to Chvanchara. I mean, it's not ideal because I think Tunekte's been playing quite well, but I think we need to strengthen the midfield and give the protection, because whoever we play in midfield, Arthur's very inexperienced. Murray is a bomb scare. So for me, it's really important we strengthen the midfield.
I mean, there's just a series of decisions for O'Neill to make, and none of the answers to those problems are satisfactory, really. There's no clear answers that are going to solve all our problems. It's kind of, there's just minefields everywhere when it comes to team selection, Paul, going into this game. So run through your solutions to those quandaries.
I haven't thought about it long and hard enough to go with a full lineup. I don't think we can switch to 3-5-2 with no real practice of it, other than the absolute debacle that was the Nancy regime. Albeit I do agree that the personnel that we've currently got available actually looks better for it. But I think it's extremely high risk to do that on Sunday. Now, that doesn't mean it would be the right option. I would play Benjamin Arthur on the very limited info I've got on him, because it's him or Dane Murray, as far as I'm concerned. Because as much as it would be tempting to play Kieran Tierney at centre back because he's played there before, that means either one of him or Liam Scales is going to play on the right hand side of the centre defence, and I don't think that's a great idea for either, to be honest. Excuse me. So you want to write, if you haven't got your first two, and let's be honest, your first two they're only your first two because we haven't got anything better. I think you've got to play a right-sided centre-back. And as much as I had high hopes for Dane Murray, and I know he's been highly rated as he's come through the system, and he's been plagued by terrible injuries, he has, as pointed out, he's gone to pieces in big matches. He's given away penalties, he's scored on goals, he's fluffed his lines. He looks suspect, and and unconfident defensively. I think actually looks quite good on the ball. He steps out well, he passes it forward, etc. But that's not what I'm really looking for a centre back in a game like this. I want you to put your body on the line. I want you to make good decisions, and I want you to stop stuff coming in. They'll throw the ball on the top of us all day long. And the one thing you can see, as long as you've just got a pair of eyes, is Benjamin Arthur's an absolute beast. So he's not going to get dominated physically. He's apparently quick as well. So I'd be taking the risk. Because, and it is a risk. There's absolutely no denying that playing a guy who's played a handful of minutes for us and only played 2 games for Brentford is a risk. But there's clearly a talented player, because Brentford, the one thing we know about Brentford is that their scouting is excellent, their recruitment is excellent, and they were giving us not a sniff of a loan to buy option, because they believe that he's a player for them for the future. So, and look, Brentford have got a deep squad at centre back. Chris Ayer can't get a game for them at that position at the minute, and we'd take him back in a heartbeat. He'd be one of the best players in the squad immediately. So I'd go with Arthur at centre back next to Liam Scales, play Kieran Tierney, Araujo is fit, and then you've got Sriracha up your sleeve to either shore up midfield and leave Tierney on, or swap out for Tierney later on. I do think, and somebody's mentioned in the comment, it's we're in the same position as Scotland, where we have got a patchy squad and 2 absolute class left backs. But I don't think you shoehorn players into positions that don't suit them just to try and get players on the pitch. I agree with this. It's the same. If we don't, it's JSP all over again. Which the kid's gone to Germany and he's
throwing him into the Glasgow derby. You know, there is potential that he's going to be a rabbit in the headlights. You know, I mean, that is quite the thing. But
I think.
Yeah, I mean, do you start an unknown quantity who looks like he should be a good player, or a quantity that we know has horrific moments in him, the bomb scare moments, David, as you say?
Yeah, I mean, we've had in our history, we've had inexperienced players having games of their life. David Marshall against Barcelona at the Nou Camp.
Tony Watt against Barcelona.
Tony Watt against Barcelona. So it could happen, and as Paul said, Brentford have very high hopes for this guy. With Trusty missing, everything is a risk just now. But even if Trusty had been playing with Beaton standing beside him to make sure he doesn't breathe in anybody, he'd have probably been first sent off anyway to make up for the injustice after he had absolutely savaged Butland a couple of games ago. I know it all sounds negative, but I do think that our best team is better than them. I think if we can deal with the atmosphere, keep it tight for the first 10, 15 minutes, get Maeda, running, chasing the way he does, I think we can get a result. And then this time next week, when we're talking, or when Paul's doing his tactical analysis show on Monday, when we're talking about, he predicted all along that we were going to win 4-1. And we could see how things are. But I think there's we're obviously very subdued tonight and a wee bit worried about what might happen. But we're a better team than them. And I think having Martinoneill, whose biggest strength is his motivation, his man management, he can get the best out of these players. He'll have them believing they're world beaters, and that's my hope anyway. And that's me sober. So let's see how it goes for Sunday. But I think we'll win.
Right. Well, look, it's nice to hear a positive note there, and let's wrap up the show with a couple of little stories on the side of a bit more positive nature. Don't know if you saw this. Lisbon Lions Tommy Gemmell statue unveiling to take place near his Lanarkshire home. How do you pronounce this place name, David? Craignuke?
Craignuke, yeah, I think.
Craignuke.
Yeah.
Craignuke. Some funny comments here about, the place where they're going to erect the statue isn't exactly friendly territory. So some might be a little bit concerned about the consequences. Paul?
Well, yeah, I don't know Craignuke very well, but yeah, there's plenty of rough places in Scotland. Interesting enough, Tommy Gemmell used to live in Dunblane. He lived in the same sort of converted...
Dunblane?
Yeah, in Dunblane. My old man lived in the same block of sort of, it's like a watermill type thing that was converted into nice-ish apartments. And yeah, Tommy was wife stayed in one of them. And was kind enough to sort out a signed Lisbon Lions top by every remaining Lisbon Lion at that point in time, which I think was about 8 of them, for my mother's 50th. So, yeah, a lovely touch by Tommy, which my dad facilitated despite their long-standing divorce. So, some things are thicker than broken relationships, and Celtic's obviously one of them. So, yeah, great guy Tommy, and rightfully celebrated. I assume Craignuke's his hometown rather than where he spent all that part of his life.
Yeah. My sister used to live in Dunblane as well, funnily enough. And she left not long before that horrific incident.
I only spent time there afterwards. It's a beautiful wee town, right on the water. And actually where we scattered most of my dad's ashes when he was back in Scotland. Middle of last year.
All right. And then shifting tone again slightly. David, I don't know if you saw the hullabaloo at the BAFTAs, which came from the fact that the movie that you recommended, you were the first person to mention it on the Celtic World, I Swear, all about Tourette's. And did you see that John Davidson ran into a bit of bother? That's his name, isn't it? John Davidson.
It is.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
You saw this story, David?
Yeah, definitely. I was a bit disappointed that the lead actor didn't give us a name check for for persuading people to watch the film. But no, that's fair enough. You just you don't forget where you came from, boy. I mean, this thing was people. The whole idea is that Tourette's is an illness. It's facial and vocal tics. The fact that they were complaining about the N word. I mean, that was the whole point of the film. I mean, you imagine when for people who've not seen it, but the start of the film when he's getting his MBA
No
or whatever it was.
spoilers. No spoilers.
No, but when he's getting
Yeah.
his MBA from the Queen, and you can imagine what all of us would say, and oh yeah, sorry mate, I've got Tourette's. But he was actually making those comments, whereas clearly in that kind of situation, the poor guy was vilified. I saw that a lot of Scottish people were fully supporting him. I think I saw one tweet where somebody had said, "You can keep Greenland, but if you slag him off again, we're going to war." I think, I mean, the guy, everything about that film is raising awareness about Tourette's. And I think actually the fact that he used the N word involuntarily, that was really, I think that's going to raise awareness even more.
It definitely will,
unless,
this whole incident.
Unless
Sure.
people are too stupid to understand what the whole point of the film was.
Well, you're not going to say we're dealing with Americans or something nasty like that. That would be terrible.
Yeah.
Who is Michael B. Jordan? Asks Will McMillan. Well, he first came to my attention in The Wire, where he played Wallace. Famously,
That was a very
Wallace
young
was
one,
a young boy trying to make it in the hood. Ended up getting taken out.
a series which didn't shy away from the N word from memory either.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
absolutely not.
Yeah, the Creed films is where I remember them from.
Haven't seen any of those.
Yes, the Rocky sort of franchise.
Didn't know that, Edward. Well, I mean, he didn't mean that, most probably, or he might have, who knows.
Definitely.
It depends whether he said it in the form of a tick or just, an analysis of McAvaney.
It'd be quite unfortunate for a tick to call someone a Fenian bastard.
It would indeed. A tick. Is that your joke?
Sadly, yes.
Okay. The Wire, brilliant series, absolutely.
Yeah,
The Wire even came up in the Celtic World WhatsApp chat today because I was saying that the next few games as a Celtic fan could be shit. And then Anthony posted a picture of Clay Davis from The Wire and informed me that the actor who played Clay Davis was a fan of Stenhousemuir FC, bizarrely, which is true if you look that up. Don't know how that ever came about, but pretty extraordinary. Yeah, well, there's also a little part of me that finds it amusing that everyone's trying to outrage each other. We're outraged this well, we're even more outraged at that. It's a sign of the times when everyone's outraged at everyone else's behaviour, Paul. Huh?
Well, yeah, but I think it's starting to get some airtime, but really you've got to blame BAFTA and the BBC in all of this because they had a 2-hour delay and still decided it was a good idea to let it go out on the broadcast. So here's the thing, right? The word is still going to cause people, trauma, upset, and that's absolutely understandable. Equally, he didn't mean it. There's no intent behind it, so you can't get upset with him. And the poor bloke lives with this thing for his whole life. The only reason that probably he's Tourette's is accepted as it is in Scotland particularly, but the UK more generally, is because of this bloke. He's been on telly since he was about 15, 16 in various documentaries, but he gets he gets a story made of his life, another opportunity to tell the story and to make more people aware, even further afield globally. He's been celebrated. The movie's been celebrated. His life story's been celebrated. He's invited to an amazing event, in an event that's absolutely perfect for causing his takes, and he still goes. He's brave enough to go. He's announced that he's there. He gets a lovely reception, a little bit of warm applause, and then obviously he can't help himself. He can't help it. That's the whole nature of what happens to him. So, and then he his whole night's ruined, and he leaves early, and he's forced to kind of make an apology, people go, that's not a proper apology. Well, he actually hasn't got anything to apologize for. Like, he couldn't. There was absolutely zero intent. So yeah, it's a poor story overall. It's a real shame, and the lack of understanding for some people is just ridiculous. It's as David says, watch the movie, and then if you come back with the same thoughts as you're jumping on your soapbox about now.
So you have watched the movie now, Paul?
No, I haven't, but I know the story of John Davidson. I grew up at the same time he did. Like, I was a few years younger than him, or I am a few years younger than him. So, I remember the John's Not Mad documentary that came out in the late 80s. And yeah, probably laughed a bit at it because it was a bit naughty and I was a young kid. But over time, you get an awareness of it. You understand a horrific disease, and once you get a bit older, you go, "Oh my God, living with that it's just unbearable." But he's built a life for himself, and he's never stopped trying to build awareness and help other people that came behind him. So yeah, it's a real shame. But yeah, we're surrounded by idiots, so two things are true.
Surrounded by idiots. There's been a few in the chat as well, which I had to ban as we've gone along. Casting aspersions on you, David, there just because of your location. Yeah,
yep.
You must get that all the time. Oh, Bangkok, Bangkok,
Yep. Jealousy gets you nowhere.
It's pretty boring.
Fantastic place to live.
Yeah,
highly recommend it. World famous Bangkok Celtic Supporters Club, rooftop bar. What better place to watch us batter the Huns on Sunday?
Always getting a plug in. if you're in the area, check it out. All right, so do your best to enjoy tonight, I suppose, or the result, and hope things go our way. This is the Thursday show, so the next show we do is Monday. There will have been a lot of water under the bridge by then. All right, so until next time, thanks to everyone in the chat, as always. You've made the show what it is. Without you, we'd be nothing. And we don't have Tourette's to blame for us abusing people in the chat. It's just a bit of banter back and forth. It's always good. So thanks to you all. Thanks to Paul and David, as always. And we'll be back on Monday. Until next time, spunk for milk.
Hail, hail, folks.
See ya.